I've been talking, quite frankly, everybody's bringing up Project 2025 like it's this big new thing. I'm just embarrassed and ashamed of America. Like it's like idiocracy all over again. You know, history, the Powell memo, the Mount Pelerin Society, the frickin' contract with America. This is nothing new. I don't care. They see scary things in the document that the Heritage Foundation wrote. And it's like, oh, okay, guess what? In another news, the right wing is doing right wing things, right? Like in another news, the Christo fascists are doing what they do. In another news, Zionists are doing what they do. And you show enough of the dead bodies from Gaza, you show enough of these things, and people still are able to literally shut it off and ignore it and say, but what do you want, Trump? Literally the level of brainwashing and just the idiocracy. Like you can't even have a legitimate conversation with someone to say, I set a red line here at, genocide. Genocide's kind of like my red line. And it's like, but it would be worse under Trump. Like literally, this is the Pavlovian kind of weird. I'm not really a human. I'm a robot, and I say things, like Polly want to crack her shit, and it works. I hate that it works, but it works. And these people don't realize they're dupes. They don't realize they're being duped. They think they've really stumbled onto something. Like, oh my God, have you heard of Project 2025? And because it's so effective at getting normies excited, instead of realizing that it's, well, right wing is going to do what the right wing does. Who is going to stop them? Is it Joe Biden, who can't tie his own shoes, much less say a complete sentence? Absolutely not. And then you look at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court just gutted the administration and the administrative part of our government. And you're going to tell me that suddenly by bringing in Biden and his administrative staff again, that it's going to stop Project 2025. It's just the standard stuff that happens every election. Do you remember when, what's his name from, oh my God, I can see him, bad James Bond knockoff dude from Utah, Romney, when Romney ran, right? The world will come to an end if Romney is elected. You just
I
don't
remember it
understand.
very well. I remember
And then it was
well.
like, but if John McCain gets in there, it's going to be the worst thing ever. And then, oh my God, if I'm Bob Dole gets in there, it's going to be the worst thing ever. And I'm not sitting there saying that it isn't horrible to have Trump, but what I'm saying here is that what do you want, Biden? I mean, you really have to see the system for what it is. They're not asking you or I who we think should be president. They've got a bunch of rich fuckers sitting together saying, we'll decide who we think we should run. Just like the court case that happened down there in your neck of the woods when they tried to sue the DNC for not running a fair primary, and they were able to successfully fight and say, we don't even have to run a primary. We select whoever the hell we want to run. You don't have a say here. So why does it work? Because people can't stand the idea of looking the devil in the eye and saying, oh my God, I'm nothing in this system. These people don't give one single fuck about me. But I have to act like I do because what do I want, Trump? And so repeat the cycle. It's awful, but that's why it works.
Yeah, and I think the reason it works better in the liberal circles than it does in the conservative circles, I've always maintained, especially where you live in the conservative part of Pennsylvania, the big difference between rural and urban and slightly suburban is that rural dwellers are survivors. They know how to live and, change a tire, pitch a tent, things like that. So when they look at the government, they think to themselves, I want as little of it as possible because I really don't need it. Whereas people who live in more urban settings, like the people who are constantly on, social media all day long, I don't want to say it's all of Brooklyn, but you get what I'm saying. And so by that measure, they're so fearful of this idea that their lives are not kind of pre-planned in some way, that they don't have all of these things that are all set, and prepared for them. The thought of having to fend for themselves, I think, is a burden that is way too big for them to comprehend. I'm only saying that from the perspective of where, you got like the East, Northeast, type liberals, West Coast liberals. You have the working class in particular in the upper Midwest and places like that where they are more of the survivors. And there is that last bastion of the old school Democratic Party that slightly still exists, but very little. And now you're looking at this scenario where they had the debate. It was even worse than what I thought it would turn into. In fact, it was so bad that the idea that he would even continue, to me, is a non-starter. Even if that means that you have to manufacture the first Madam President. It is what it is. With that being said, the idea that they're now circling the wagons and telling you to eat your bowl of shit and like it is just unbelievable. And it's not like there aren't others running for president right now that are starting to see a slight bump in their support. Inevitably, and this is my opinion, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, I think by Biden continuing, and I believe he's going to continue. I think he's actually going to stay in the race. By him doing that, I think it's going to facilitate this break from the two-party system faster. I think that is the result, because it is obvious that he is a placeholder, that he is a chosen representative of the nation. And because of that, and because they don't trust either others to do the job, or there's something we don't know behind the scenes, there could be, legal issues that we're not aware of, or ones that we are, and it could get a lot worse. You get my drift? I think because Joe is standing firm, and even the ones who were slightly suggesting maybe we go in another direction are now circling the wagons and saying, I guess we're stuck with him and that's the way it's going to be. That's going to hurt the Democrats even more than they've already been hurt. It seems that this is only going to get worse. Your thoughts on that?
I could come right out and just drop to the 10-foot level of the pool and just tell you what I believe, but I'm afraid that it's cutting out too many thoughts, and I had to block the chat because there's just ridiculous things going on in there. And for me, watching, I always want to correct nonsense. That's kind of the role I play. And I think what is concerning is realizing that you really don't have a say in this. This is not about you and I. There's nothing Joe Biden is advancing. There's nothing Kamala Harris and her civil forfeiture history as a top cop ever has advanced. There's not anything that Donald Trump has advanced. There's nothing in the entire electoral process that gives you or I agency in this system. Stop there. People can't accept that. They won't get to that. That right there, to me, is step one in getting sober in this world. Realizing that all the bitching and moaning and biting someone's neck off for not, what do you want, Trump or some, that's a worthless thing to say. If anybody ever says that, don't ever say it again. It's embarrassing. Don't ever say, what do you want, Trump? People look at you and laugh. Literally. They literally laugh at you when you do that. So don't ever do it again. But if you think about it, what is Joe Biden actually doing? Every single step through this process, the veneer of legitimacy, the veneer of actual democracy falls away. And what did they tell us the entire last election? They told us we're voting to save our democracy. A democracy that first and foremost never existed because we're a constitutional republic, which doesn't even allow us to directly vote for president. We don't have the kind of agency in this system. We are merely serfs. We're in a feudal system. And I wish that wasn't the case, but we are. So does it hurt the Democrats? Does it help the Democrats? It really doesn't much matter at the end of the day, because they're two capitalist parties. Okay. It didn't mean much to me before I understood history, actually have some ideological understanding, theological, really understand working class history. Okay. Until I understood that, all this stuff about two capitalist political parties didn't mean shit to me. They're literally fighting over the sliver in the middle, this little tiny sliver, but everything else they literally agree on lockstep. As long as stock market's doing good, they're happy. And they gauge whether or not the economy is doing good, not by how the poor are doing, not by how the lower middle class are doing. It
Stock
should just be the
market.
working class. All they fucking gauge it on is GDP. Are we doing well there? Yeah, of course we are. The rich are doing really well. Just today, they came out and they showed that the interest payments from the raising of interest rates, the actual outlay. Now, mind you, folks, this has not come from your tax dollars, but I'm not even going to bother with that because it doesn't really matter at this point. But
Yeah,
the
we're in
bottom
like
line
the
is
we're in like the fifth or sixth circle at this point. It's like you got to let that slide for now. Just try to brace for impact is more the proper way to go.
we are watching. We are watching right here, right now, is that the interest payments to the rich, the people with money already, literally is outpacing. You're not going to believe this, literally outpacing the military industrial complex budget. We are literally paying more from the interest rate hikes, which are payola to the rich. That literally, it's a
Correct.
basic income for rich people. That's all it is. We have literally eclipsed the military budget this year with interest payments. So the Democrats, rich people are happy. The Republican rich people are happy. They're fighting over like this square inch of space. And really, at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's the oligarch Olympics.
And I also
we are
think
just
the thing I just wanted to point out is that you look at the way that people behave and the way that they react, and this is, there is that sort of king worship towards Trump, no question about it. But there's also the way I look at it between the ones who are on the GOP side, ones who are on the Democratic side, is that the ones that are on the GOP side do tend to lean more towards the reverence of a king, that all powerful leader, whereas the Democrats, it's like they're enamored with this idea of monarchy. Like they see the Democratic Party as their royal family and that they must be benevolent and treated as such. And that's why they never question them. That's why I get so nauseated when people talk about the royal family in the UK. And it's like, it's the same thing. Like, I don't understand how you think any of this is important, because it's not.